this example. Okay, so hopefully we'll be just hearing a low quality here. I'm starting the Elias example, and what I've been showing was that this is a software. I opened the basic demo. This is how things are organized. These are different clips, okay? And each one basically has a different audio recorded in it. We can find this audio if we go in the Finder. We'll see where these files are. That's how you organize. You basically collect all your audio in on disk, and then you basically start putting and placing this in different places. And each one actually corresponds to some different musical material: choir, strings, some pad. Now, and when we switch from one, so of course all of them play together, and when we switch from one basically level to another one, it starts triggering new examples. And it's synchronized in a way that it kind of makes sense. The transition is smooth. So let me jump to, let's say, 5. So we have this new melody strings coming in. It wasn't before. And we have this brass melody that came in, while all the others are still playing. So this is kind of this vertical remixing that is happening as you switch between different levels, okay? And as you can see, the software can turn off and switch segments while others keep playing. We can also enter like just a silence that will kill a section. But the nice thing is that it gives you a big variety of emotional things. So we go like down to like more exciting elements here. And we can go back. So this is kind of like a basic example of kind of layering things that are all composed to the same kind of musical idea, and the software kind of allows you to switch back and forth, and you add little elements. Now, I also pointed out that you can have more than one theme. So if you go to a different theme, like the objective battle, okay, you also have these So, how do we move either between different themes? So the additional level of, I wouldn't say complexity, but kind of just understanding is that even though these themes sound to be very similar because they're kind of in the same tonality, they're actually very different. Even just in the sense I mentioned that every theme actually has its own setting. So this theme actually is in a very different signature. It's 7/8. I don't know if I probably don't have time right now to go and open up one of these themes and listen to it, but the rhythm here is much more kind of like moving forward. This 7/8, which is kind of like it's actually kind of goes 7 rather than the original theme that was 8. Let me close this one. So we go to this other theme that we had here, the objective theme, and we look at the settings of that theme. It's a very different. It's 4 quarters. It's much more like on the beat 1, 2, 3, 4. The BPMs. So these are actually very different musics, and the fact that they're kind of same orchestration and same tonality does allow us to switch, but basically these are they would not layer together nicely if we put materials of the 7/8 with the 4/4 here. They will not match each other. So maybe this is a little bit too technical in terms of musical terminology, but you just think about them as two separate musics, even if first listening they sound pretty similar, but they don't really match. You have to transition between them. Now for the transitions, or even transitions within the scenes, you have so-called stinger tracks. And stinger tracks are basically maybe if we go to the other theme, it has just slightly simpler stinger tracks. These are little hits. You can listen to them. So this is level complete stinger. You can have something else, which is a game over stinger. Okay. Or you can have other stingers, which are just kind of a tonal aspect. Okay. Now, if we look at these, okay, some of them are. We have to open here, okay? If you want to follow the software, it doesn't really matter. For the purpose of explaining the principles, you can have a stinger that actually has a lot of variations. We call this whatever, or the composer called it tonal brass battle, but this tonal brass battle has actually a lot of options. So every time when this stinger is triggered, it will be one of these. So you can actually have a variation. When level is complete, we play, we hit just one stinger. Ends the level. Game over, one stinger. But when you use this brass stinger, tonal brass battle, you can have a lot of different sounds. Like this kind of a brass call, okay? But you can have something very different. I can take. So the idea is that you can compose a lot of these little. Or for the hits, for the percussions, you can have different. Okay, that's kind of big, the cymbal clash that ends something. You can have a very different, like bigger one, or another percussion hit. So this is kind of the idea that you have these stingers, okay, and then when you go back to your loop tracks, okay. You can basically decide that when you do the transitions, you activate the stingers. So let's kind of just play the first scene. And we have a selection of a stinger here. So let's say if we move from scene 1, okay, to scene 3, okay, without a stinger. That's going to be transition. Let's go again. Scene 1. We move to scene 2 by changing slightly the percussion. Okay. That was just part of the ending of the strings. And we go to 3. Go back to 2. Now let's add a stinger, okay? Let's take, the level complete battle stinger and move through. So if you notice, there was dun da da ba da ba bam bam. That was our stinger. Let's play it again. Here, we will trigger now. Let's move now and have another transition with game over battle and go to 4. So, I mean, this is not exactly the appropriate way to, we trigger the game over stinger in the middle of a level, so actually it wasn't designed to do it this way. But this is kind of the idea that you basically have these transitions, or maybe more natural would be if you want to go let's go back to the loop tracks and add some brass transitions as we play. So now we're in level 4. So every time you trigger this, I get basically this kind of added material that is jumping on the transition. Of course, the software takes care of the transitions being kind of arranged in a nice way, so the switch on the beat and everything works fine. But I think it gives you kind of the idea of the versatility of the musical materials. Again, kind of if I want to summarize this, the whole concept of adaptive music, at least in this way of rendering this with Elias software, is you think about this as I don't know if you want to call it spreadsheet. If you think about Ableton, you have a view in Ableton which is called session view, which is arranged the same way. So I think it's pretty much inspired. So what you have these levels, which are basically different ways of recombining different materials that you put along these tracks, and every track is basically some sort of a different musical instrument. Very often that's how they're arranged, but also they're slightly different musical functions. So strings will be playing these chords or these melodies, brass will have its own function. So it doesn't have to be arranged really according to the instruments. You can arrange them in a different logic, but that's kind of one natural way of organizing them. You can have basically multiple instruments or multiple segments. So some of them can be actually segments that you arrange. So in this view below, you don't have really to record. If something has to play only in bar 1 and bar 17 and everything else is silence, you can actually arrange this into segments. That's another concept that is important just for the purpose of saving on space on the recordings. So not everything has to be arranged in 32 bars, and every basically clip in the setting, the logic here is every theme, if you look at the theme settings, has a fixed number of bars, but you can switch in between on the beat. That's kind of one of the tricks. So you can have these 32 bars, but basically only having 2 short segments. You can have more segments here, so you can actually arrange 16 segments from small files into one of these segments. So they provide you a lot of ways of organizing shorter clips into these segments, just because that's how the way it's arranged. But the strings one is basically one long recording of a string musical this section. Okay, this so whatever that track plays is just one long recording, 32 bars. You can have also a lot of variations between different segments that kind of suit the purposes, and they're triggered randomly. So this is also kind of one way of creating variations. So basically these are your scenes. Each one can comprise either of a full recording, of short segments recordings with a lot of silences, or just rearranged. You can have a lot of variations. If this keeps playing, this other material will keep alternating. So even if you have looped this scene 1, at least this thing will be new every time. And then you switch between scenes. So these are basically levels, levels. I don't want to call it scenes. Okay, when you move between levels, basically the previous playing clip will finish, will fade out, and on the beat the next one will start, and this kind of you move inside the logic of that theme. And then you also have these fingers that you often trigger on the transitions. So you might decide that you have these different And you can see the level complete, game over, battle, tonal brass. These 4 stingers, you can select them, and when you activate them, when you switch a theme, it will be triggered. There are many more logic here. There are action presets and the level of the, how do you actually activate each stinger when it mixes into the clip. I mean, that's the whole aspect of really designing in your clips with such a software to very, very precise detail. But the purpose of this demo was kind of to explain this visually and sonically, these basic concepts of how you organize your work, and what is the meaning of stingers, what are the meaning of transitions, and how do you basically arrange them in tracks, and how you switch between tracks by this layering or mixing when you move from one level to another level. So yeah, I hope it was helpful. Of course, you're welcome if anybody wishes to basically use this kind of a tool for his project, but I think it probably will take you quite a while to kind of work out all the little details in such a software. While for the final project, kind of want you to address these aspects, design the transitions, think about different ways of remixing materials that you have already from your compositions to create more variations within a theme, okay? And then think about transitions from either level to level or from one theme to another theme. So I hope this was helpful, and I will stop the recording and answer some questions.